evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Cornwall is a game that drunk people play with beanbags.
Well, I mean, to be fair, drunk people might play Cornwall. We don't know.
And they're all drunk in Cornwall. I can't back that up, but there were a bunch of pirates there at one stage and they were definitely drunk.
Well, of course, Cornhole is the beanbag bar game, but Cornwall is the southwesternmost county in England, and it's actually not a county that would come up on soccer shows very often, or association football, if you will, because there are no professional teams in the county. Now, just to give you an idea, Plymouth Rock, which is where the Mayflower took off from, is in Plymouth, which is in Devon County, and Cornwall is southwest of Devon, so that gives you an idea of how far out on the coast you're getting if you're in Cornwall. However, there are 24 registered association football clubs in Cornwall, the highest of which is Truro City FC, which plays at the 7th tier, so they would be a similar sized club to like your Loughborough Dynamo. But out of the 24 clubs, most of them play in what's called the Southwestern Peninsula League.
Oh, that sounds great.
It's limited to only teams from Cornwall and Devon. And that's at the 10th tier. And to give you an idea of the 10th tier,
seriously,
you have, yes, you have, for instance, you have Barry, who was expelled from the Football League, and they're going to have to start over in the 9th tier. Oh. So these most of these clubs in Cornwall are actually below where Barry's going to have to start back over at. So.
Cornwall, it is in the southwest there, much like the southwest in the US. It's warm and temperate, so people have other things to do, that they can go outside and explore the outdoors rather than being shut up in, oppressive heat, I guess, which is what we would do here in the summertime, or, the miserable cold of England over there during the wintertime. I can't back that up. I don't know. I've never been there. But I do have to ask a question. Why does Penzance not have a team? And why are they not called the Penzance Pirates? Because I'd be supporting that team.
I feel like after that whole history lesson on Cornwall, we need that The More You Know music, from NBC back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Can we steal that? Maybe you should do an impression of it, Phil, for us.
I'll have to see if I can find a soundbite, maybe throw it in there.
Oh, we're laughing now, but... Oh, the heartache. The USL season is over for Phoenix Rising fans. For Matt, it's a blow, flush to the face, akin to the unfortunate full facial football flooring incident suffered by Chelsea keeper Kepa. Phil spent the weekend engaging in an eyes-bulging, spit-flecked, kids bop Karen-esque rage whenever the performance of USL referees was mentioned. Sorry to bring that back up again, Phil. As for me, I woke up the next day, had a wonderful breakfast of grapefruit toast, some yogurt, I had some orange juice, and then went on a quick jog. Then I had a shower and was ready to face the world again. Just kidding. I drank a shit ton of vodka mixed with my salty, salty tears. But we're back at it. And on tonight's show, we talk MLS, we talk English football, we talk rumours, we talk stupid competitions, and definitely not the USL. All that and more coming at you like a remote-launched missile strike off the goalpost and into your ears. But first...
I feel like, too, I should be like, pew, 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 or something. I don't know why. Make sure you guys head on over and follow us on all the social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Across the Pitch and on Twitter at Across Pitch. That's where you can interact with us on game days or match days, depending on what side of the world you live on. And also, we have a special survey coming up with this episode, and so make sure you head on over to our social media pages to vote
and give us
on what we're going to be talking about later.
Yeah, we're going to get some shit for this, and bring it on, bitches.
Well, thank you for joining us as always. And my name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm here with my co-hosts,
Arran and
Matt Robards.
And we had a big bopper of an episode planned for Saturday, but things Friday night didn't get quite the way that we wanted them to with the Phoenix Rising, and we did just want to give a short eulogy to the Phoenix Rising season, and who wanted to deliver that?
You know what? I will.
Okay.
And
I'm still suffering from a dual hangover, the dollar beer night hangover and that USL season over.
So this is very unprepared, off the cuff, but it's kind of just what I've been thinking about these last couple days. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to our owners. I want to say thank you to our front office, and thank you to our players. What they accomplished this season was historic. 20 wins, most points, most goals, just all the records that we set. This was a historic season, and they should not feel bad about how it went.
Absolutely.
Heads up, it was great. And leaving Friday night, tasting defeat, staying behind to cheer those players off the field, to shake hands as they came around, almost in a way to say sorry, just giving them encouragement.
It's amazing that you would say the word sorry, really, because you're right. That was not only just an exceptional season, that was let's throw out the record book and start again season. You know what I mean? I don't think there was any record left that the Phoenix Rising team this year didn't get. I mean, I could be wrong. I could well be wrong, but it was one of those seasons whereby they were by far the best team all season long, and we fell short.
So from the bottom of my heart and you guys, just thank you to, and I don't know who from the organization Mayor Manelis is, but thank you guys for what you did.
Hey, Coach Chance.
Leaving Friday night, I felt for the first time something that had only been described to me by season ticket holders at Chelsea when we went and visited, and they talked about just that lull, that sadness they feel leaving the ground for the last time, knowing that it's going to be months before they walk back into it. And so as my wife and I were leaving, I got to the top of the stands. I turned around and I took a picture of the lit, empty field with mostly empty stands. And I just felt this sadness in me thinking, man, it won't be until February, March that I step back and sit in this seat again. And I can't wait. And so thank you to that organization, Sam Dorr, for all your interaction on Twitter, for communicating with the fans, everyone in the front office that deals with season tickets, Kelsey, to Coach Shantz, to Peter Ramage, Blair Gavin.
Let's not forget my mate Jose. Let's not forget Jose.
Jose Bach.
Hello, Jose.
And then to the players, man, you guys gave us a remarkable year, and we can't wait to do it again next year. We're going to stand behind you. We're going to fight with you.
All right.
And I'm just reminded of the chant, where you go, we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to follow because we support you. So thank you for this year, and we look forward to 2020.
Right, that was well said. I have to say, oh, God, it made me emotional. And, that devastating little hole in your heart came back there, mate. But you're right. But it's hopeful as well for next year, knowing, we're going to learn from this. We'll come back. We'll bounce back stronger. I hope the core of the team remains. I think it's a solid squad. I think,
Well, and very rarely does the best team in the USL and the best team in MLS win this end-of-the-year cup competition because it's such a crapshoot.
Right.
And so I think what we accomplished in the regular season can't be overlooked. It was historic on every level. I don't see another USL team going on a similar run within at least the next couple of years. And so it was a great year. I wouldn't change it for anything. I would rather, I saw some discussion
that game.
Right. I saw some discussion on, would you take back the 20-win streak? And I don't think I would, because, that's something that's unheard of, not just in the USL, but in American sports and almost on a world sports level. So thank you to all you guys.
Absolutely.
I think that the way that the season ended and the fact that, like you said, that the one-off game is such a crapshoot kind of proves around how hard 20 games in a row really is, because, there's, just so many things that can bounce one way or another. But
you've broached a subject, Phil, which I think we need to go into real quick, okay? I announced last week I would be leading a new segment called Phil's Controversial Comment of the Week. Now, I don't know what sort of music you're going to put behind that, Phil, but do your best, mate. The way it works is that as the Across the Pitch team here chats throughout the week, as we do regularly, I would take note of something controversial that our leader, our somewhat inclined controversial man, Phil Kennedy there, I would take note of something that he would say and jot it down in my secret diary. So basically, I've been torturing Phil all week by reminding him of this upcoming segment, and I do that every time he dares to disagree with me. But it's more than me bullying my way to winning an argument, because sometimes, just sometimes, there is an outrageously good claim by Mr. Kennedy over there, my soon-to-be former mate from State 48. And this week, the controversial comment is, football is not suited to a playoff format. Discuss.
Well, I think that what I was getting at is, so in American sports, playoffs are something where it's just something that's done in every sport, where you play the regular season in it. It would essentially be, the easiest way to kind of explain it would be, if let's say that the Champions League was only played by the top 8 teams in the Premier League. So let's say the Premier League was played all season, and then the top 8 teams made the Champions League, and then the Champions League was played right after the season, and the winner of that was the league. And that's sort of the way that American sports work. And the thing is you have baseball, you have basketball, you have ice hockey, where in baseball, you play a 162-game season, and in basketball...
I've got to interject there, mate. Why the hell do you need 162 games and then playoffs after that? That's nuts.
Well, that's just the nature of the sport, is that you can play it every single night. With association football, it's such a grueling game, and the fact that you don't have substitutions, you can't really play more than twice a week. The other thing is if you look at basketball, for instance, there's over 100 points scored in a game. That ends up being a truer outcome, because in a game where you have 100 points scored, chances are that the best team is going to come out on top more than others.
And you negate those rubbish referee calls as well, because there's so many more plays that can potentially be made after that point as well.
Exactly. And so with association football, you have 2 problems. One is what you were just describing, is if 1 point can decide a game like that, or if sometimes 1 point is all that's scored in a game, a bad call, a bad bounce, an own goal, something like that can change the outcome of a competition. In sports like baseball and basketball, they go into the playoffs and they play a 7-game series where it's whoever wins 4 out of the 7 games advances.
Right.
In association football, you don't have the opportunity to have teams play that many games against each other. Plus, you don't have a sport where teams are playing 100 points in a game. And where I best compare this to is what they did in auto racing about 15 years ago.
Oh boy. Here we go, Matt. This is going to be interesting for us.
Okay, so in NASCAR, which is the premier racing series over here in the United States, from 1972 until 2003, the point system was based on whichever driver accumulated the most points throughout the season.
Right. But doesn't that make sense, though?
It makes complete sense.
That's literally first past the post. That is literally first past the post then. There you are with the post and a little checker flag. Off you go. You won that one. Good on you.
Exactly. And that back then it worked much like the Premier League does, where whoever would have the most points at the end of the whole season would be the champion. However, in 2003, because NASCAR is an American sport, they decided that they have the playoffs.
Oh, so what the hell?
Now you have it's a 36 race season, and now instead of the champion being whoever accumulates the most points over 36 races, the first 26 races are to qualify for the 10 race playoff. And then they do this thing where they eliminate 4 drivers every round until the last race is down to 4 guys racing for the championship. So they've basically made this convoluted Game 7 situation in every year, so it's not special anymore. And then on top of that, here's why it doesn't work in auto racing, is because in that last race, a guy who was the best driver all season can have a mechanical failure. He can have some guy in front of him blow out an engine and then he wrecks into the back of him, no fault of his. Just like what can happen in association football. Some sports, basketball, baseball, have your playoffs. It's wonderful. Association football, auto racing are different animals. You don't need playoffs.
It's a bit akin to Lewis Hamilton, who won in his Mercedes supercar, I have to say, by a massive, massive margin, only for him to go into a playoff series. And as you say, like, he would blow an engine. Not that that's likely in that car this year, but maybe, I don't know, some prick like Nigel Mansell might come along and just run him off the track. Yeah, you can tell I'm not happy about that. Still, I'm a bit salty. So it doesn't work. Matt, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, Phil, I think Phil hit the nail on the head talking about how this is an American concept. And there's this big difference. And I think, Phil, you touched on this a little bit. When you have, in baseball and in basketball, these 7-game series, and you offer those chances for tactical adjustments, most of the time the better team wins out. In soccer, it's such a crapshoot. You get one bounce of the ball either way, one bad reffing performance like we saw with the Phoenix Rising game, not to bring up that and to make excuses, but when the ref clearly misses a blatant penalty call, and you have these factors that when you're playing this one-off elimination game, it's a crapshoot. It really is. And so that's why I said, and we've seen, for the past, couple of years in the USL and in the MLS, that the best team really doesn't ever win MLS or USL Cup. They're winning these cup competitions that are after the fact. And so I think what we need now, I don't think MLS is going to change because MLS likes making money and the MLS Cup is a cash grab for them. We were talking kind of offline about going to a possible Minnesota LAFC game. And, Phil, how much were the cheapest tickets going to be for that?
It was over $200 a seat to sit in the upper deck. Now, by the time I was looking, it was on StubHub. So, I mean, these were resellers that were selling above face value, but realistically, what I was looking at is this was the face value. Then you've got StubHub fees, which are like 10%. It would have cost me $600 by the time I was paying taxes and all that. $600 for 2 seats in the upper deck would have been the cheapest I could have gone for.
Right. So it's a cash grab for the MLS. I think USL has a chance to really come out and set themselves apart and say, you know what, we're going to do this differently. We're going to do, over the whole season, whoever's the number one most points, they win the championship, and then have your cup competition ever. Call it whatever you want. Or even like I think we suggested offline is, have the top seed in the West and the top seed in the East, then play a home and away series to crown your Super Bowl or your conference champion or however you want to call it. But I think USL has a chance to step up and make a change.
I have, just to temper the argument there a little bit, lads, I have something to add into that. And it is the fact that we don't have promotion relegation.
Exactly. That was going to be my next point.
Right. So what happens here? Right. So what happens here is if we have in the USL, for example, Phoenix Rising won it by mid-May. So therefore, what are we scrambling for? Why are we playing the rest of the season after that point? It's pointless, really, isn't it? I mean, do we call the season? That's it, done.
So
if you don't have those teams that are in danger of being in relegation, then there's no need to care about the bottom of the table. And yes, that's where it goes hand in hand. One other quick thing I would throw in is because there's 36 teams, it has to be a split table. And I love the idea of the winner of the West versus the winner of the East. But I say make that a 5-game, a best of 5 series.
Oh man! So
here's the thing is, so it goes into the playoffs and they play 4 rounds of playoffs, so they're playing 4 extra games after the season. If you make that East versus West a best of 5 series, you're only potentially adding 1 extra game if it goes the full distance. I mean, somebody could sweep the first 3 games and it's over. But imagine the intensity of having the best team from each conference go head-to-head potentially for 5 games.
No, I don't think I could sit through 2 dead rubbers, mate.
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm not a big fan of that. I think 1 home and away series would suffice. But here's the thing.
That'd be good.
So when USL announced all this rebrand, last year with USL Championship, then League One, and then League Two, which is kind of the semi-pro development league, there was discussion of in the future there being pro-rel between the Championship and League One. So I think that's something USL is moving forward to in the future. And it's something they need to do.
Jake Edwards is on record as saying that he's a fan of it.
And that's something they need to do because, again, I'm going to say this. Every MLS2 team should automatically be in USL League One. We don't need those teams in the championship because this bull crap with their MLS players just playing down a level is stupid.
The thing is, I would say that that's not fair to the independent teams of League One. I mean, look at the team that just knocked out Phoenix Rising. They're a number 2 team. Right. It's not fair to have Real Monarchs against Tucson. I mean, that's just never going to work. You would realistically have to separate all the 2 teams into their own separate league away from the independent teams, and then nobody shows up to those games. So
they have an academy competition.
Well, I agree with that, Phil. I agree with that. Yeah. I think the USL needs to stop sucking at the teat of MLS. I think USL is better ran. I think it's overall some better competition. I think there's more parity in the USL than there is in the MLS. I enjoy watching USL games more than I enjoy watching MLS games. And so honestly, and I guess to speak frank, USL needs to stop, again, sucking at the teat of MLS and just go off on their own and say, you know what, guys, we don't need your money. We don't need your partnerships. We don't need whatever. Your MLS2 teams needed. You guys go do your own thing. Go start a development league. I don't care what it is, and let those teams around it.
The problem is that the U.S. Soccer Federation and the MLS are in bed. So if the USL says "fuck you" to the MLS, the U.S. Soccer Federation will take away their 2-tier status.
Nah, they wouldn't do that. Why would they do that? It's a bigger league than the MLS. So who are they going to put there? The NASL, which hasn't played in a couple of years and has like 5 teams. They would keep their top. They would keep their tier 2 team for sure.
They're in bed. The MLS and the U.S. Soccer Federation are wanted the same.
Lads, I'm going to have to interject. This has been a wonderful conversation, but to keep this show on time, on schedule, and hopefully pulling into the station at some decent hour, we have to vote. So here's what happens. Is Phil's statement controversial or is it bang on the money? So, Phil, are you an outsider or are you an oracle with this call? You don't get the vote, however. You don't get the vote. So it's just between you and me, Matt. And the tiebreaker will go down to our listeners, and we'll post that on our social media pages. So the question was, football is not suited to a playoff format. Matt?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, you bang on the money there, mate. I agree with you. Boo. Boo playoffs in football. Boo. And that's not me just being salty. That I actually believe that. Apart from maybe, I don't know, the championship playoffs into the Premier League, because that's a hell of a lot of fun.
Well, that's different though, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's not league champion. That's for a promotion spot. I think that there's a place for knockout tournaments. I mean, the World Cup is a playoff, if you will. That's the most popular tournament in the world. But even there, you have things like group stages, and I think that any time that you're playing a 30-plus game season, that's probably going to give you a truer outcome.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, mate. I absolutely agree with you. There are designated playoff competitions, if you will. So the FA Cup being one, the League Cup, Champions League, World Cup to go to the very top level there. It does not belong in a competition where you have... How many games do we have? 36?
34.
34? Jeez, I should know that off the top of my head by now, shouldn't I? I mean, you've already played the competition. Why are we playing another competition? Boo. I think you're right, Phil. If you disagree with Phil, let us have it. Let him have it, actually. He was the one that called it. See us across the pitch in various social media channels.
All right, well, what we have coming up next here was I think we were going to do a little bit of a roundabout on the EFL, and particularly I had been focusing on League One and our flagship team, Accrington Stanley. But I wanted to go a little bit of a top to the bottom of the table and kind of get your guys' opinions on where you thought some of these teams would finish up. And if we start at the top of the table, you've got Ipswich. Of course, they said that they were going to walk the league, and early on it looked that way. They do have 2 losses now. The first, of course, coming to Accrington Stanley, which happened a couple weeks ago.
Yes. Phil, that was like one of their most famous wins ever against your most famous favourite country and western band, the Tractor Boys. Stanley. Well, I spoke to Darren Woodhead, our correspondent over there on the ground in Accrington, and he was, in fact, not on the ground. He was over the moon. He was so far in outer space that his head may have well exploded in a comically bloody fashion. But since then, it's been kind of lean pickings for the squad, hasn't it? I mean, what was that win? Was that like a false dawn, an eclipse, some other celestial movement that I lack the knowledge to explain? What's going on there?
Accrington has been a strange team this year, and here's what I really see, is with their top 11, they have a squad that can compete with anybody on any given day. The problem is that their depth just quite isn't up with some of the bigger teams. They've struggled with some injuries up front, but they're really a team that on any given day they can play with anybody. I mean, looking at just last week, they had a match where they came into... They were not favored by any means against Coventry. They came in, They fought to a 0-0 draw there. I mean, they're they're a club that has the capability of playing with anybody. I think that the Tractor Boys may have underestimated them a little bit, and you might remember that actually Accrington beat Ipswich in the FA Cup last year as well. So Accrington is 2-0 all-time undefeated against the Tractor Boys. So maybe they just have their number a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they got the hoodoo over them. Oh, that's great. I love that story.
But one guy that's really been making some noise is a former Accrington player, which is Caden Jackson. He has 7 goals and 4 assists for Ipswich. Norwood, who came over from Tranmere, he's got 7 goals. Now, Ipswich has been really good on defense. They've only allowed 10 goals through 15 games. Their offense, though, is at 25 goals scored, and 14 of those 25 have come from Jackson and Norwood. So my question to you guys is, do you think that the Tractor Boys have some concerns on offense? Do you think they need to add another piece in January if they're going to walk the league like they've said they're going to do?
No. I reckon James Norwood, since he came from Liverpool, has been... oh, boy, I'm going to get some shit for that. They're going to be fine. You know what? They had a bit of a hiccup. I don't see them... I see them bouncing straight back up again, honestly.
I mean, this is so League One, like these lower leagues, Championship, League One, League Two, they're so hard to predict. I don't think Ipswich needs to add anybody in January. Will they finish, one? I don't know. The Wycombe Wanderers are looking pretty good too. They're tied on points right now. Wycombe does have a little bit better of a last 5 games. I mean, there's just so many variables in this long season. I think Ipswich gets promoted. I think they go up. Do they finish in an automatic promotions place? I would probably put some money on that. But either way, I think they're going up.
Well, you mentioned Wycombe, and that was actually a good mention because they were the next team I was going to bring up. I just wanted to kind of go down the list here and get your opinion on a couple teams, guys. Wycombe, I would say they're the surprise team. They're in second right now. Their defense is really, they've been second to Ipswich. They've only allowed 14 goals. They've scored 25, which is the same amount. The guy that you really have to look at for Wycombe, though, is Ryan Alsop, their goalkeeper. He's already got 8 clean sheets. He's got a 72% save percentage, 0.87 goals allowed per 90. So they have a hot goalkeeper. Do you think that the defense and Alsop, do you think that they're strong enough to keep Wycombe where they're at, or do you think that Wycombe will come back down towards where they were maybe predicted? What do you guys think of these teams for Wycombe from here on out?
Well, I mean, this team has been playing. They finished 17th last year on 53 points.
Yeah, they had a miserable season. I think I might have even tipped them to go down.
And now they're sitting second on 33 points. I mean, that's a good turnaround. I think they've improved a lot. And again, I think Wycombe's a team that, if we're looking at this table now, you're talking Wycombe and Ipswich are 5 points ahead of Peterborough in third. They're 7 points ahead of Oxford United in fourth. I think Wycombe and Ipswich are the 2 teams that are going to for sure get promoted this season. I think this was a great turnaround for them.
Yeah. It has been a good turnaround. It's very early in the season. The thing that worries me about Wycombe is, well, it's a little bit 1-0 to the Wycombe Wanderers. That doesn't work very well. But, they seem to be maybe lacking a little bit of strike power, if you know what I mean. Defensively, not a problem. So many clean sheets there. You know what? I think they've got a maid there in service. Let's not talk about Maidenhead because they drew with those guys and they didn't score a goal. But I don't know. There's like they're sneaking goals. They're taking out 0-0 draws and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not terribly convinced by them at this point.
Yeah, I would say that you'd have to say that the jury's still out. I mean, like you said, they finished 17th last year. Alsop was there last year, so it's not like they brought in a brand new goalkeeper. Maybe he's just kind of having a hot start to the season. But I mean, certainly at a plus 11 goal differential, you have to start thinking that it's more than a quarter of the way in the season. So I would think that they're looking at least a playoff spot. Now, the team below them that you mentioned a minute ago, Matt, is Peterborough. To me, out of the top three teams, they're certainly the most exciting team to watch in the league, but they're also the biggest question mark. Now, these guys are scoring goals. They've scored 39 goals in 17 games. Next best team is Oxford on 33. They have three of the top four goal scorers. They have Ivan Toney and Mohamed Issa with 12 each. Marcus Madison with 9 goals. Paddy Madden with 10 goals is the only other player in the league with 10 or more. Peterborough has 2 guys with 12 and another guy with 9. But
this is it, isn't it? Yeah, this is the problem.
Not so much. They've allowed 23 goals, which is the most allowed of any team above 15th place. And they were shut out 1-0 by Shrewsbury today, so it seems like maybe their offense is falling off a little bit. This is a team that I'm concerned about. They could certainly score, but do you think that Peterborough can play good enough defense to stay where they're at in the table all year? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Oh, man, I'm having flashbacks from the Phoenix Rising season because, you know what, they might have the sharpest strikers in the league right now, but that doesn't matter because if you're leaking goals at the back, which we know has been a bit of a problem for Phoenix Rising, apart from maybe a little stretch in the middle of, 20 games or so, we had a bit of an issue with that. Now, you need that solid defence there. It doesn't matter because if your strikers have an off day, you're going to lose the match. That's all I have to say on that matter. Yes, they're exciting. I've caught a couple of the games. I've enjoyed them. They've been great. But it's that, God, up and down sort of, are we going to win or are we going to lose? Oh, God, yes, no, we're going to score a goal. We're going to get this. Yes, you may sneak a goal at the end, but you may not. And I don't know. I suspect that maybe some defences will sneak up in Peterborough and understand how to negate.
I think that's a great call there, Aaron. Like you said, I mean, if Toney and Issa and Madison go through a bad spell of just, not scoring, they just go cold, defenses figure them out or whatever it is, and their defense is still leaking goals, you could see this third place position, all of a sudden they might drop to, kind of that mid-table range that they finished 7th last year.
Yeah.
So they could drop down a little bit. I mean, it's one of those things you have to figure out. And we saw this with the Phoenix Rising is, we came out in that semi-final game. We scored the quick goal and then we gave up 2 weak goals. And then we just couldn't claw back into it. And so Peterborough is kind of in that same spot where, okay, hey, we can score. We certainly figured that out. But if those guys go cold and we're still leaking maybe some cheap goals or we're still leaking, just goals in general, now we're trying to figure out how to climb out and claw out and just gain a point, let alone 3. And so I think that could kill them if they don't figure them out, man. You know what they say over here in America is defense wins championships.
And it's absolutely right as well. And let's not also overlook the point that, between 3rd place and 9th place is 3 points.
Peterborough, like Matt said, they finished 1 spot out of the playoffs last year, so certainly they're a team that is playoffs or bust at least this year, and I think they're going to need to shore up that defense a little bit if they want to make sure of that. But before we finish up this segment, I had one last, I kind of had 4 things here that I wanted to go over. And this one is the 4th one here. And this one is going to go down a little bit further in the table with Lincoln City. And Lincoln City is currently 17th after a strong start.
Yes.
Of course, their manager, Danny Cowley, left. Now, I just wanted to go over some of these numbers here, because this is mind-blowing.
Okay.
with Danny Kelly, Lincoln started off the season 4-0-3 and technically 4-0-2 because that third loss they already knew he was leaving. Since then, they are 1-3-5.
Ooh.
They're in 17th place. Danny Kelly took over Huddersfield. When he took over Huddersfield, they were 0-1-5. They hadn't won all year. They had only one draw. They had lost 5 times. They lost his first 2 games there. However, since then, he now has them on a 4-match unbeaten streak. They're in the best form of anybody in the championship. They're 2-2-0 over their last 4 games. And all of a sudden, Huddersfield is on their way up. Lincoln City is on their way down. In your opinion, is Danny Kelly the best manager in the EFL right now?
Okay, I'll run with that. I mean, on recent form, yes, you would have to say absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Was he at Lincoln during their famous run last year? He was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he saw them through actually 2 promotions. He saw them from the conference all the way up to League One in a 3-season span.
Yeah, I guess there's something to be said for that. I mean, you can ask your assistant coach to step in. You know, he knows a little bit about the players and how the players are meant to be, but does he give them motivation? Probably not. I wouldn't think so.
Well, his brother's the assistant, so actually him and his brother, Nick Kelly, kind of work his team together. They both
not very well, apparently.
Well, no, they both went from Lincoln to Huddersfield.
Oh, they both went. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bit of a shitty situation. I don't think the Imps will be real happy about that. Hey, news across the pitch news desk.
Oh, no.
Of former managers. Nathan Jones, former manager of Luton Town, is now former manager of that stinking shit. I mean, sorry. It's really hard to say. That was an absolute slip of the tongue there. I meant sinking ship, SS Stoke. Trust me, it's hard to say. He is now looking for a tilt at the home of a fellow Flounderingers team like the Bolton Wanderers or perhaps Sunderland or perhaps Lincoln City, but definitely not Luton.
Well, I'm not sure about that because Luton, okay, so Stoke City, they are dead last in the championship in 24th, but Luton is just 4 places ahead of them in 21st, so I don't imagine they're too happy with Graham Jones right now, so they might do a Jones for Jones swap, and I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that a guy left for what they thought was a bigger, better opportunity and then kind of came crawling back with their tail between their legs to their old club.
Are you sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure there's some Luton fans out there which would say Captain Foolish, if I can call him that. Nathan Jones, don't sue me. He probably deserved to go down with that ship that is Stoke because they stink. They really do. But anyway, I don't know. Would Luton take him back? Does he have the goods to play at that level? I don't know.
That's tough, man. Would Luton take him back? Maybe, but
maybe.
I know.
That might
it's
be
so
a
tough
poll
because
right
again,
there.
so looking at it as a supporter. So let's say Rick Shantz with the Phoenix Rising said, you know what, mid-season, hey, I'm going to go coach, San Jose Earthquakes, and then he failed, got fired. Would I feel good about him coming back? I think I'd feel betrayed that he left mid-season. I think it would take a lot for
absolutely. Yeah,
if he goes back, he's going to have to do a lot of work to get the supporters back on his side.
Oh, for sure. They'd want to start winning immediately, and they'd want to go on a pretty damn good unbeaten run, I would say. Like, he's lost a lot of support there. Even though he did some great things beforehand, as you say, jumping ship, to use that analogy one more time. That's the last time I'm going to use it. They felt betrayed. I mean, I followed Luton. I'm in some of their fan groups on Facebook there, and they're incensed. They celebrated the fact that he was sacked.
Oh yeah, yeah. But then again, I mean, it's like I said. I mean, right now, if the season ended today, they'd be relegated back to League One. If they thought they had a chance to maybe bring him in and save the season, I think a few wins could win the supporters back real quick.
Let's keep it in England now, but we'll go up a couple of levels because the vultures are circling, the clouds are gathering, and the metaphors are mixing. Look out, there's trouble at the Emirates. Again, for only the 9th time of the past 10 seasons. Mutiny, torches and pitchforks, rebellion, incompetent management. What can be done to save the North London club from 5th place in another dire year in the wilderness? Who will save us? But wait. What's that in the horizon there? A dapper, volatile, yet experienced foreign gentleman. One who has travelled, nay, created this path before. It can't be. Surely not. It's been a while since we've done this. It's Jose Watch. So what do we think? Are we all the way with Jose at the Emirates, or are we ho, ho, ho? I don't think so, Mr. Mourinho. I could have gone with like the no way Jose joke, but I'll leave that for the lazy tabloid hacks. Okay, so here, let me pose the question for you there, Matt. Say he got the job. Will he be the special one with the squad he has? No. You know what? Let's go there. Will he get the job? Should he get the job?
Will he? I mean, those are kind of two different questions, I guess. Will he get the job? You know what, man? I don't know. It really depends because you have so many coaching situations kind of up in the air right now. Niko Kovac is out at Bayern, so Bayern's out there. Do they look to bring in Jose, or are they looking to bring in Ten Hag from Ajax? So if Ten Hag goes to Bayern, then that means Ajax is now available, which Ajax is kind of a big club at this moment. So do they go try to get a Jose Mourinho? I mean, and then you have the whole Tottenham with Poch. They're sitting in 11th. You got United with Ollie. They're sitting in 10th. So what do they do? If Ollie gets fired and Poch gets fired, does Poch go to United? Which then, I mean, there's so much carousels that could be opened up. We could see a lot of dominoes fall. Jose is not the answer for Arsenal. I mean,
ooh, so you're saying he's not going to be the special one? He's going to be the specialist in failure.
I think he'll come in and there might be a new manager bounce. But Jose Mourinho's big strength is his defensive tactics. But he always has solid defenders. And one of the biggest problems Arsenal has at this moment is they don't have solid defenders. And so is it a good fit? Probably not. Would the Arsenal supporters want him? I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some Arsenal supporters say they wouldn't be willing to sell their soul to the devil to bring in Jose. It's tough, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are a lot of fans out there as well who are looking at this. And you know what? The rumor mill has been like turning like a tornado. You know what I mean? This is EF5 sort of thing at the moment. And you're right, it is divided. And it's divided into two camps, really. What you said exactly just now, Matt, is right. He's a manager that likes to open up the checkbooks. And you know what? He might actually get to do that at Arsenal and buy a couple of defenders in. But the fit's not right for Arsenal because Arsenal, by and large, in the last 20-odd years or so, has been an attacking force. Gone to the days of 1-0 to the Arsenal. Or perhaps maybe we take back that sort of pragmatic style and go, you know what, 1-0 to the Arsenal will do. Jose Mourinho's our man.
It's weird, man. You guys are sitting in 5th. I mean, that's not horrible.
Yeah, but Bayern Munich is sitting in 4th and they sacked their manager.
Yeah, but Niko Kovac was such a weird hire for Bayern Munich. That just didn't make sense to me. And I think Bayern's just a different animal than Arsenal. Bayern is in that position where they should be running away with the Bundesliga every year. And so when they're sitting in 4th going, oh man, we're not doing it, that's a big deal. Whereas you're talking...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Arsenal really comes in thinking they're going to finish any higher than 3rd right now.
Well, right. I mean, you're talking maybe at this moment there's really a top 7 with the way Leicester are playing.
Right, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, let's not forget about Leicester.
So it's not like you're running through everybody. But again, I think with the coaching carousel, we could see within really the rest of this calendar year, 2019. I mean, you could be talking about some big clubs out there looking for a manager from Ajax to Tottenham, United. Bayern's looking right now. Things aren't looking great at Real Madrid or Barcelona, even though they're sitting in first and second in their league. So
that's a mind
do either of them make it? I mean, it's just it's a weird year, man. It's really very strange,
Who out of us, and I think you posed this question, Matt, who out of us predicted that perhaps Unai Emery might be the first manager sacked out of the Premier League? I don't think any of us saw that.
I think we all picked Kiko from Watford and
right.
I said Ole.
No, you did, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you on that too, Matt. Phil, beg your pardon.
It's one of those things at this point, man. Who knows? It could be Unai. It could be. I mean, it could be Poch. It could be Ole. It could be. I mean, it could be anybody.
Well, you mentioned before Watford, Matt. Okay. And during the week, you also shared with us a little post about Watford looking for a new logo. And it's pretty obvious why, to be fair, Matt, because talk about confused identity. If you haven't seen it, the Hornets, as Watford FC are known, have a crest with their red, black and yellow colours on it, and a moose.
Yep.
And yes, before the hate mail,
not a moose. It's actually
before the hate mail descends, I know it's meant to be a male deer. I know, but the poor deer looks like he's just woken up after a Tuesday night out on the Colombian marching powder in the city with city bankers, wondering how the hell he ended up in Uxbridge at 6 a.m. It's a truly sorry-looking character needing a cigarette, a shower, and a hair of the dog before heading back off to work. So, yeah, it's probably about time the moose got the news.
Nice.
So that got us thinking, what other football logos could do with a bit of a makeover, a bit of a refreshing nap before lunch, and several strong coffee cups after? So we have a new segment on the show, and we're going to get a lot of crap for it. Wait for it. Bring it on. It's the worst logos in football. So I say that, yeah, Watford probably has it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get the whole thing.
I think with Watford, it's more a matter of it not making sense than being terrible, because there's certainly worse ones out there.
So
yeah, okay, all right. So what else have we got, lads?
Is that?
Well, I mean, is
that yours for this week, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm going to claim Watford.
Okay, so yeah. So for all the listeners out there, what we're doing is we're all going to say what we think is the worst, and then we're going to throw them up on social media. You guys are going to vote for them. So Aaron's going with Watford. Phil, who do you got?
Well, for the first one, I think that we have to go with Bradford City, because, I mean, it basically looks like somebody deep-fried the Spurs logo.
I'm going to have to look this up. Go on.
Is that...
What else was I going to say?
It's like the Spurs logo after Colonel Sanders got a hold of it. That's
it's a bit of a fried chicken. Oh, I get the reference. Okay, yeah. So you've got a cockerel, which looks
golden.
Well,
so
just doing its cocking thing.
Maybe the Bradford City logo with some hot sauce and blue cheese, and it would be all set.
Popeye sandwich. Oh man! And then you have a new sponsor next year.
So you're going with Bradford City. So you guys,
I think it's kind of been offensive. I don't know. It kind of looks a little tame, to be fair. Quite like their squad.
I'm gonna say Bradford City's actually isn't that bad compared to the one I'm going with, and I'm jumping across to the other side of the pond. I'm coming over here to America, but really, I think this is we could go global with this, because I'm going with just the Red Bulls organization. Red Bulls, New York Red Bulls, Red Bulls Salzburg, and Red Bulls Leipzig. This is just a marketing campaign for an energy drink that they've merely slapped the name of a city on and thrown a soccer ball on there. So if you haven't seen this, we'll throw some of these up on our social media accounts. But essentially what they've done is they've taken the Red Bulls logo, which is the Bulls, and just thrown it on top of a white background with a soccer ball on it. And they've thrown the name of whatever city they decide to be in. So if they buy a club in Italy, it's probably going to look the same as it does for New York. And to me, this is just a horrible logo that is only outdone by their horrible home jerseys.
So you're saying that their season performance means that Red Bull did not give them
Red Bull
wings?
did not give them wings. I mean, this is bad. I mean, what are we get? This takes jersey sponsorship to like the next level. I mean, what's going to come next? Is PlayStation going to buy a club and they'll be called the PlayStation Players? Who knows? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Good Lord, we could have the Canberra Red Bulls. That'd go down well over in Australia, I'm sure. Canberra's never getting a team. Let it die. It's dead, all right? You're not getting a team.
So there you go. Aaron, you're going with Watford. Phil, you got Bradford City. I'm going with just New York Red Bulls. We'll throw those up on our Twitter, our Instagram story, and our Facebook. Head on over to one of those. Vote on which one of these is the worst, and let us know.
And let us have it. Come on. Let us feel the hate. Bring it on in. Oh, yeah. I haven't been more hated since I had that half and half scarf from Forest Green and MK Dodds. I won't be stepping foot in either town anytime too soon.
Well, I think that we certainly have covered from the west coast of the United States all the way to the east coast of England and everything in between.
Don't forget Cornwall.
Especially Cornwall. And
the more you know.
And I appreciate you guys joining me as always. And for my brother from down under,
my mate from State 48 and Mr. Wizard over there.
Hey, you guys have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good one.